Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report, brought to you by Red Ritter Outfitter, the fans' favorite since 1975. I'm Jared Johnson, and I'm very excited to break down and discuss Texas Tech's 2023 football season, which was released January 31st in the afternoon. And it had been delayed, of course, several times. There's 4 new teams, of course, joining the Big 12: Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU. And there's 2 schools going out at some point. Obviously, most likely not next season in UT and OU. But there was a lot to figure, new Big 12 commissioner, all that. Bottom line is we have it now. So let's break down Texas Tech's 2023 schedule. Of course, we knew the non-conference. You open up at Wyoming on September 2nd, which is a pretty good in terms of non-Power 5, opponent. In terms, they go to bowl games. It's there, all that. I may even go to that game. I'm excited about that. Of course, with the expectations, Texas Tech's still going to be expected to win that game. And then the marquee non-conference game is Oregon at home. You have a home-and-home with them. But the big storyline is going to be Tyler Shuck facing his old team in Oregon. He transferred from the Ducks prior to a couple seasons ago, and looks like he's going to take on his former team. That's a storyline we'll hear about. We'll discuss it, of course, but we'll hear about it from everybody over and over again. And then they wrap the non-conference with Tarleton State, which is, I know people, that's not exciting, Tarleton State in Lubbock, but it's a necessary evil. It's good for Tarleton State for the money. Tech gets a padded schedule, and kind of get ready right before they start Big 12 conference play. And speaking of, let's get to it. Like I said, just released. Texas Tech opens Big 12 play at West Virginia. That's September 23rd. And Texas Tech has really dominated the series as of late. Even though, of course, it's not easy to win at West Virginia, one would think Texas Tech, and we're a long way away, would be a favorite going into that game, but we'll just have to see. And then they play Houston. Now, obviously a familiar foe. You played them in the Southwest Conference. And then also you played them recently. You played them last year at home and won in overtime. A really good game. There's a lot of intrigue with that one because Donovan Smith, one of the guys, I think he actually had the game-winning score for Texas Tech. He transferred to Houston. So you play Houston at home at the Jones again, September 30th. Then you go to Baylor. And, of course, there's a lot in terms of there's a lot of history between the 2 coaching staffs. There's a lot of history between the 2 programs. Baylor really pushed Tech around last year, and Joey McGuire has said on numerous occasions, including on our chat on Inside the Red Raiders, that the one game that he wished he could have back was Baylor this past year. So that one's circled on his calendar already. That's Baylor, October 7th. And then Texas Tech hosts Kansas State. Now, Kansas State, obviously, they won the Big 12 last year, and you beat Tech. I think they've won 7 in a row against Texas Tech. So that's a streak you'd like to snap. You get them at home. That's a big game. That's like a swing game in terms of where you're positioned in the Big 12, where you're positioned for a bowl game after the regular season. So, in my opinion, that's a huge one. And then you take on another one of the newcomers at BYU. That is October 21st. And this is your last game before your bye. So you play 8 games before your bye. And this is, according to Texas Tech's notes, the football, the athletic department in the football program, this is the first time you've played a game in Utah. So that'll be interesting. At BYU, it's always a tough place to play. Good program, so that's a tough game. Then you host TCU after the bye. And it's on a Thursday, too. That's what's interesting. After your bye, it's on a Thursday. And that's a game, it's probably going to be on ESPN. It's one of those things. That's a game you really want to win. Obviously, TCU was the national champion runner-up. You played them really tough last year. The proximity, the in-state rivalry, all that stuff. That's a big game for the Red Raiders. After that, 9 days later, you go to Kansas, and Kansas is a better program now. Now you beat them soundly for the most part last season, but that you can't look at that on the schedule anymore and say, oh, that's a gimme. That's going to be a tough game there. And then not finally, but the final newcomer that you play is UCF. And these two teams have never played each other, and it's going to be in Lubbock. That is November 18th. Now, UCF hadn't been as good here just this recently as they were like 3-4 years ago, but still a good program. I expect them to get a boost, after joining the Big 12, and that's a game that Texas Tech needs to win at home, get started on the right foot in terms of with that game. And then you finish your regular season the day after Thanksgiving in Austin against Texas. So you do play Texas. Big overtime victory over the Longhorns last year. You've won a couple times in Austin in the last, 7-8 years. So there's an opportunity there. I personally don't like the after Thanksgiving game, that slot, but, of course nobody asked me. And, it'll probably be like not necessarily a primetime game, but it'll be one of the only games on TV. So, that's interesting. But in the games I've been to after, and this might be different based on where these two teams are at. These two teams might be battling for a spot in the Big 12 championship game or something. I mean, that's a legitimate a possibility that could happen. So there could be a lot of juice on that game. But in recent years, the Thanksgiving or day after Thanksgiving, between Tech and UT, there wasn't like a whole lot of juice with them. But again, different circumstances, and we'll have to see. So my big takeaway is it's a great schedule. I mean, you play Oregon, you play Texas, you play BYU, Baylor, TCU, of course, Houston, and then UCF, another one of the new schools. Obviously, you don't play Cincinnati, the final and fourth new school joining the Big 12 in 2023. But really good non-conference this year. At Wyoming to open, then Oregon at home. You get several teams at home. You do play Texas. You don't play either of the Oklahoma schools, and I know that's going to be disappointing for a lot of people, but overall, I'd have to say I'm a big fan of the schedule. I really like the bye where it is after 8 games, so you can make that push for the final third of the regular season. And expectations are really high here in Lubbock, and rightfully so. They bring back a lot of really good players. They've added some good transfers, really good freshman recruiting class. I don't know how much they'll help, immediately, but Texas Tech is expected to, be in the top half of the Big 12 and maybe even challenge for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. So, and then now we know the schedule, we can start doing those way too early win-loss predictions and all that. But really exciting that this came out. Everybody can start plotting their travel plans and all that stuff with their families, and we get a better idea of what the season's going to look like. And I can't wait. We got a long way to go, it seems like, right now. But I got spring ball coming up, which I can't wait to cover too. But I'm excited about the schedule. I think it's a really good one. I think it's going to be a fun one from a fan perspective. It's definitely not easy, but it's going to be interesting. A lot of new things going on with the new teams coming in. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.